This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome. Welcome. This is the town moderator's annual town meeting article information session. There's no voting, there's no debating. We read the articles every year, every town meeting, special or annual, to ensure those at home can at least be warned of what they are in advance. Some are posted throughout town. I've seen one or two today, but for your convenience at home, and also those who aren't watching live can see a recorded version of this after tonight. And I thank East Hampton Media for pulling this off successfully year after year, and it's a pleasure to work with them. The town meeting is a legislative body of our town government. This isn't the executive branch of our government, the select board. It actually is you who show up at a town meeting, and when the town moderator bangs his fist, because we don't use a gavel here, you automatically inducted for the evening's town meeting, and we rely on you. You control the budget and the bylaws, and very democratic process, probably the most democratic process there exists. It rocks and rolls in other towns. Some, I forget the name of the town, they went 8.5 hours straight. We generally go 3 hours and then we take a vote. Once recently, annual town meeting outdoors, we went the extra half hour, and we have a quorum of 50 now. But we reduced it to 25, and for this meeting, with the permission of the governor, just in case people want to leave and go home. But we do not require you wear a mask. We recommend it. We'll have hand sanitizers there. We haven't done the seating yet, but we would like to keep everyone 6 feet or so apart if possible. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you Tuesday, June 7th at 7 o'clock at the William E. Norris School on Pomeroy Meadow Road. And let me start. Article 1. Amendment to Article 7, Section 2, General Government, General Bylaws, to see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 7, Section 2, General Government, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike-through, and adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 7, General Government, strike-through. Section 2, no officer or board of the town shall make any contract on behalf of the town, the execution of which shall necessarily extend beyond 1 year from the date thereof, unless specific authority to do so has been given by a vote of the town or otherwise permitted by law. The proposed change, Section 2. Unless otherwise provided by a vote of town meeting, the select board or its designee is authorized to enter into any contract for the exercise of the town's corporate powers on such terms and conditions as are deemed appropriate. Oops, sorry about that. Article 2, amendment to Article 24, fees to the town treasury general bylaws. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaw, Article 24, fees to the town treasury, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike-through and replacing it with new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows, strike-through. The treasurer collector no longer is allowed to retain fees, returning all fees to the town treasury effective May 1, 1987. Proposed change. All town officers will be required to pay all fees received by them by virtue of their office into the town treasury with the fiscal year in which the funds are received. Moving right along. Article 3, delete Article 27, solid waste landfill general bylaws. To see if the town will vote to delete the entire town bylaw, Article 27, solid waste / landfill, by deleting existing language with a strike-through. The town requires a majority town meeting vote to ratify a Board of Health vote to accept solid waste at the town's landfill from sources outside the town limits for any period of time exceeding 3 months, period. Article 4. Each article, by the way, is on the warrant and it's posted. And when you arrive at our town meeting, you will be handed a handout which will include the article, the motion for that article, and the summary for that article. Article 4, delete Article 28, commercial ID stickers, landfill general bylaws. To see if the town will vote to delete the entire town bylaw, Article 28, commercial ID stickers, landfill, by deleting existing language with a strike-through. The town requires commercial users to bear a valid identification sticker and to disclose to the authorized Board of Health personnel the source of all solid waste contained within each load, and further to establish a penalty of future prohibition from the town's landfill for commercial user who are found in violation of disposing solid waste from sources outside the town limits and not duly authorized for disposal of the town's landfill. I cannot, I believe, read all 33 articles, so I have a team member here, our town administrator at Gibson, who's going to start with Article 5.
Article 5, amendment to Article 15, soliciting prohibited general bylaws. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 15, soliciting prohibited, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike-through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 15, strike-through, soliciting prohibited. Strike-through. No person shall go from place to place in the town or upon the highways of the town, soliciting or selling, except A, representatives of those organizations whose income is exempt from taxation under the laws of the Commonwealth or the United States of America, and such persons as may be licensed to do so under applicable provisions of the general laws. Strike-through. Any person violating this bylaw shall be subject to a fine of $20 for each violation thereof. Proposed change. All new language. Soliciting and canvassing. Section 1, purpose. This article adopted pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 43B, Section 13, and Article 89 of the amendments to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts establishes registration and specific operation requirements for persons intending to engage in solicitation or canvassing door to door in the town of Southampton in order to protect its citizens from the disruption of the peaceful enjoyment of their residences, from the perpetration of fraud or other crimes, and to allow for reasonable access to residents in their homes by persons or organizations who wish to communicate either commercial or non-commercial messages. Anyone operating under a hawker or peddler's license must abide by the requirements of this bylaw. Section 2, permit required. No person shall engage in soliciting or canvassing, as those terms are described in more detail in Section 3 below, without registering and obtaining a permit from the Chief of Police or designee not less than 10 business days before commencing such solicitation or canvassing in accordance with this bylaw. The permitting requirements of this bylaw are in addition to and separate from the registration requirements of General Laws, Chapter 101, Section 34, regarding the employment of minors in door-to-door solicitation activities. Section 3, definitions. For the purpose of this bylaw, the following definitions shall apply. A, soliciting shall mean and include any one or more of the following activities conducted door to door. 1, selling or seeking to obtain orders for the purchase of goods or services, including advertising and any type of publication for any kind of consideration whatsoever. 2, selling or seeking to obtain prospective customers for application for purchase of insurance of any kind or other similar products or services. Selling or seeking to sell subscriptions to print or online books, magazines, periodicals, newspapers, or any other type of publication. 4, seeking to obtain gifts or contributions of money or other valuables for the support or benefit of any association, organization, corporation, or project wholly or in part for commercial purposes or by a professional solicitor or commercial co-venturer solicitor for a charitable or other non-commercial organization. Or 5, seeking to obtain information on the background, occupation, economic status, political affiliation, attitudes, viewpoints, or the like of the occupants of a residence for the purpose of selling or using such data, wholly or in part, for commercial purposes. B, canvassing shall mean and include any one or more of the following activities, door to door or on a public way. A person-to-person distribution of literature, periodicals, or other printed materials for commercial purpose, but shall not include placing or dropping off printed materials on the premises. 2, seeking to enlist membership in any organization for commercial purposes. 3, seeking to present in person organizational information for commercial purposes. C, residence shall mean and include every individual dwelling unit occupied for residential purposes by one or more persons. D, registered solicitor, canvasser shall mean any person who has registered and obtained a permit for same from the chief of police or designee in accordance with the requirements of Section 5. E, charitable organization, professional solicitor, and commercial co-venturer shall be defined as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 68, Section 18. Section 4, exceptions. A, this article shall not apply to any individual who is acting as part of, at the direction of, or in support of any religious, charitable, or political entity, group, organization, or cause. B, this article shall not apply to any officers, officials, agents, or employees of the town of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or any political subdivision thereof. C, this article shall not apply to any youth organization or group. D, the Select Board may grant temporary permits to any incorporated organization of veterans who served in the military or naval service of the United States for the sale of flags, badges, medals, buttons, flowers, souvenirs, and similar small articles in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 101, Section 33. Fees of this license shall be consistent with the fees required pursuant to Section 5C. Section 5, application for permit. A, the application for a permit to solicit or canvass shall be in a form as determined by the chief of police or designee. Applications for soliciting and canvassing shall be made available at the Southampton Police Station and on the town website. Further, such application shall be accompanied by a fee in an amount as determined by the schedule of fees established and periodically updated by town meeting. All applications must be submitted to the attention of the Chief of Police at the Southampton Police Department. Each company must obtain a permit issued in the name of the company. In addition to company registration, each individual of said organization or business entity that intends to solicit or canvass on behalf of that company must also obtain a separate permit in their name. Each such application shall specify whether a permit is sought for soliciting, canvassing, or both. Further, each such application for a soliciting permit shall specify the particular goods, merchandise, or services that will be marketed. Further, each such application for a canvassing permit shall specify the types of printed materials that will be distributed and the specific manner in which such printed materials will be left at various locations. B, each person engaged in solicitation or canvassing shall prominently display in a lanyard and attached card holder worn around their neck the permit issued by the chief of police or designee while actively engaged in this activity. Violation of any of the stipulations will result in the immediate suspension of soliciting canvassing privileges. C, a fee to be periodically assessed based on recommendations from the chief of police or designee shall be set at a rate to cover the expenses of the permitting, including photos, lanyards, and other verification activities associated with the issuance of each permit. The fee must be paid at the time of application. Further, each such application shall be accompanied by a fee in an amount as determined by the schedule of fees established and periodically updated by town meeting. All applications must be submitted to the attention of the Chief of Police at the Southampton Police Department. Section 6, limitations on permit issuance. A, the Chief of Police or designee shall either issue a permit in the name of the individual or provide a written denial of the application within 10 days of the submission of the application. B, the Chief of Police or designee shall issue a permit to solicit or canvass solely if they determine that the applicant will not present a threat or risk to public safety. The Chief of Police or designee shall not issue any such permit to an individual who has been convicted of a felony, is a registered sex offender, has submitted fraudulent information in the permit application, or has had a permit issued pursuant to this chapter revoked in the past in the 5 years prior to the submission of the application in question. The activities that are allowed pursuant to a permit shall not be broader in scope than was requested in the application, provided that the Chief of Police or designee may issue a permit for activities that are narrower in scope than was requested in the application if they determine it to be in the interest of public safety. C, each issued permit shall contain the signature of the Chief of Police or designee, the name and address of the permit applicant holder, the issuance and expiration dates of the permit and the permit number, the name of the licensee's organization, if any, whether the permit is valid for soliciting, canvassing, or both, and in the case of soliciting, the particular goods or merchandise for which orders may be sought, and in the case of canvassing, the individual must submit a copy of the particular types of printed materials to be distributed and the specific manners in which such printed materials be left at various locations. D, the Chief of Police or designee shall retain a record of all licenses for soliciting and canvassing that have been issued for a period of 1 year after date of issue. Section 7, restrictions and limitations on soliciting and canvassing. A, soliciting and canvassing activities are allowed between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. B, no solicitor or canvasser shall utilize deceptive, fraudulent, coercive, or other unfair practices in soliciting sales of goods or services or in gaining entry to any residence or other building. Under no circumstances shall the permit holder misrepresent or fail to disclose to a potential customer said customer's statutory rights to cancel a solicited order for goods or services. C, no solicitor or canvasser shall enter into any property, whether residential, commercial, industrial, or otherwise, that displays a sign stating no trespassing or no soliciting. For the purpose of this section, a no soliciting sign shall be sufficient to bar canvassers as well. Furthermore, no solicitor or canvasser shall ignore a request to leave private property by any individual with the lawful authority to make such a request, whether a resident, property owner, business employee, or other authorized individual. No solicitor or canvasser shall enter into any property included on the no soliciting or canvassing list issued pursuant to Section 8 of this bylaw. Section 8, no soliciting or canvassing list. Any residence or business that does not wish to be visited by canvassers and solicitors may make a request to the Chief of Police or designee to be placed on the no soliciting or canvassing list. Each such request shall be in writing, a copy of which is maintained at the police department. Whenever the Chief of Police issues a permit pursuant to this chapter, they shall also provide the permit holder with an up-to-date copy of this list. The chief of police or designee shall update the no solicitation canvassing list each year based on information gathered by the town clerk during the annual town census. Residents or businesses shall remain on the list until a removal request is made in writing to the chief of police or designee. Section 9, limitations on use of permit. A, every permit to solicit or canvass shall expire 3 months after the date of issuance unless an earlier date was requested in the application. No such permit is transferable, even to successors in interest to the permit holder. B, a photo identification shall be issued with every permit, which shall include the permit's holder's full name and organization, if any. The seal of the Southampton Police Department, whether soliciting or canvassing activities or both, are authorized in the permit number and expiration date. The permit shall be worn so as to be visible and legible to the public at all times while soliciting or canvassing. Each permit holder additionally shall carry the issued permit at all times while conducting business pursuant to the same, and said permit shall be produced for review upon the request of any town police officer. C, each permit holder shall engage in only those activities that are allowed by the terms of the issued permit. No permit holder shall operate pursuant to the terms of an issued permit until the material terms of that permit, as described in Section 5, shall have been published in print and or electronically by the town in local publications and on the town website. Section 10, suspension and revocation of permit. A, the chief of police or designee shall revoke or suspend a permit to solicit or canvass if they conclude that the permit holder has become a threat or risk to public safety. If they become aware that the permit holder submitted fraudulent information on the permit application, if the permit holder is convicted of a felony, if the permit holder becomes registered as a sex offender, or if the permit holder has violated any provisions of this chapter during the permit period. Any revocation of an individual permit in the decision of the chief of police or designee. Should a permit issued in the name of a company be suspended or revoked, the company may reapply for a permit with assurance in the opinion of the police chief or designee that the violation has been corrected and will not occur again. Any revocation may be appealed per the process set forth in Section 12. Section 11, return of permit. Upon expiration, suspension, or revocation of any permit to solicit or canvass, the permit holder shall return the same to the chief of police or designee. Section 12, appeal process. Any person or organization who is denied registration or whose registration has been revoked or suspended may appeal by filing a written notice of appeal with the Select Board. Such appeal must be filed within 5 days after receipt of the notice of denial, revocation, or suspension. The Select Board shall hear the appeal at its next scheduled meeting after the filing of the written notice of appeal, provided, however, that if the Select Board fails to make a determination within 30 days after the filing of the appeal, the registration shall be deemed granted or reinstated as the case may be. Section 13, violations and penalties. Violations of the terms, conditions, and restrictions of this bylaw, exclusive of the fine regarding the display of permit identification, see Section 5B, issued pursuant to the same may result in a fine of up to $300 as set forth in the non-criminal violation bylaw.
42.
Thank you. 42. Each day of a continuing violation shall be a separate violation, and further provides that each house, business, property, mailbox, or vehicle that is solicited or canvassed in violation of this chapter, including in violation of the terms, conditions, and restrictions of any permit issued pursuant to the same, shall be a separate violation. Each such violation shall be enforced by the town police officers and shall be subject to the non-criminal violation of bylaws, rules, and regulations as provided in Article to be determined of these bylaws and general laws, Chapter 40, Section 21D. Failure to prominently wear display the provided permit may result in a violation of up to $100 per individual and up to $100 per primary employing entity per violation per day. Section 14, severability. The provisions of this bylaw are severable if any court or of competent jurisdiction determines that any such provisions in the violation of the laws, constitutions, or regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or the United States of America, the remaining provisions shall not be affected thereby and shall continue in full force and effect. Article 6, amendment to Article 23, numbering of buildings, general bylaws. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 23, numbering of buildings, by amending the existing language is noted below. Deleting existing language with a strike-through and with adding new language shown in bold-faced text, which reads as follows. Article 23, number of buildings. Strike-through, Section 1, the Select Board shall adopt a comprehensive system for numbering of buildings on or near the line of public or private ways and may order numbers to be affixed to be painted on any buildings on any street in their discretion. The owner of every building shall comply with such order within 30 days thereafter. Strike-through, Section 2, place the building number on the front side of the front door. If the building is not visible from the highway, it will be placed on the mailbox or a post or structure to the right of the driveway. Numbers to be a minimum of 6 inches or larger. Failing to do so after 30 days of notification will be fined $20. Proposed change, Section 1, in the interest of public safety and to facilitate emergency responses, the town needs a comprehensive system to number buildings on or near the line of public or private ways. Every building under construction, renovation, or transfer of ownership, including but not limited to single and multiple family dwellings, apartment buildings, condominiums, municipal buildings, and all types of business establishments shall have affixed thereto a number representing the address of such building prior to the date of occupancy. Buildings must display address numbers that are at least 4 inches in height. Section 2, numbers shall be numeric and must meet the minimum size as designated in Section 1. The numbers shall contrast with the background to which they are affixed to ensure readability without sight aids from the public or private way on which such building is located. Section 3, if the building is located more than 80 feet from a public or private roadway, such building number shall also be affixed to a sign less than 1 square foot at the intersection of the public or private ways on which such building is located. Displayed on signs that meet the same size and contrast requirements as numbers affixed to the building, or attached to both sides of a roadside mailbox with 4-inch high contrasting numbers as an acceptable alternative to a sign when said mailbox is located on the same side of the public or private way as the building. Section 4, for homes without mailboxes or when the mailbox is located on the opposite side of the public or private way on which the house building is located, the following shall apply. Signs must be visibly located at the driveway or lot entrance. Address numbers must be 4 inches in height, and numbers must be attached to both sides of the sign. Section 5. The address requirements for estate or subdivision lots are as follows. A clearly designated house number sign not exceeding 4 feet in height and 6 feet in width, depicting house numbers and locations within the estate or subdivision must be displayed. Mailboxes shall not suffice as home building identification for estate subdivision lots. Address sign permits for estate subdivision shall be issued by the building department. Failure to obtain a sign permit after 30 days of notification from the building department shall result in a continuous fine for every day of violation as specified in Article 42. Non-criminal disposition of violations of bylaws, rules, and regulations of the Southampton General Bylaws. No permits in relation to the site can be finalized until compliant with this article. Section 6, houses under construction shall install a permanent or temporary house number, spray paint on plywood is acceptable, temporary sign, for the purpose of delivering emergency response aid to personnel engaged in lot development or home construction. Section 7, It is recommended that all existing homes and businesses comply with the provisions of this bylaw as specified in sections 1 and 2 above to facilitate efficient emergency responses. Section 8, the building inspector shall be the designated enforcement authority and shall apply these requirements to all new construction and or renovations that require building permits. Article 7, accept a new Article 49, the naming of the public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands general bylaws. This is all new language as it's a new article. To see if the town will vote to accept a new town bylaw, Article 49, the naming of public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands, with language which reads as follows. Article 49, the naming of public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands. To see if the town will vote to adopt the town bylaws, Article 49, the naming of public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands, by approving the language which reads as follows. Section 1, purpose. This bylaw is enacted to establish the process by which in naming, renaming, or otherwise designating public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands, the town seeks to recognize individuals, locations, and/or events of significance in local history and local affairs. Section 2, definitions. Designate. The act of calling by a distinctive title, term, or expression any public building, structures, or public lands as defined in this bylaw. Name, a word or phrase that constitutes a distinctive designation of any public buildings, structures, bridges, or public lands as defined in this bylaw. Rename, the act of redesignating any public buildings, structures, bridges, or public lands as defined in this bylaw. Nominee, the individual or entity whose name is proposed. Public buildings, structures, any structure, edifice, bridge, or other facility owned or maintained by the town of Southampton or any department or agency thereof. Public lands, any real property owned or maintained by the town of Southampton or any department or agency thereof, including but not limited to playgrounds, parks, courts, athletic fields, intersections and medians, and private ways on public lands, but not including public ways regulated by Article 3, Section 9 of the general bylaws. Features: benches, bricks, flagpoles, plaques, parking spaces, trees, scoreboards, and signs, or other markers located on public lands or within public buildings or structures. Section 3, procedure. The naming, renaming, or other designation of any public buildings, structure, bridge, or public lands shall be by majority vote at an annual or special town meeting. Once public buildings, structures, bridges, or public lands have been named, they shall not be renamed unless changes are recommended by the Select Board and approved by town meeting. Section 4, criteria. Any proposed name or designation of any public building, structure, bridge, or public lands shall be submitted to the Select Board in writing for its review and recommendation as to the appropriateness thereof. A, applicable criteria for naming, renaming consideration shall include, but is not limited to, nominees' past residence in Southampton, nominees' extraordinary services to the town, nominee's significant contribution to the town. The designated item to be named relates to the individual's service or contribution to the town. No public building, structure, bridge, or public land shall be named for any living person or commercial enterprise. Letter of support from the Southampton Historical Commission where applicable. The Select Board may consider additional standards and criteria for consideration of proposed names or designations. Following a duly advertised public hearing, the Select Board shall forward its recommendations to special or annual town meeting for approval. Excuse me. C, the naming, renaming, or other designation of individual rooms, areas, or sub-areas within a public building, structure, or areas or sub-areas associated with any public land shall be by the department or agency having jurisdiction over the same. The Select Board shall be notified in writing in advance of the intent to name, rename, or designate any sub-area within public buildings, structures, and public lands. The Select Board shall be notified within 7 days of the installation and naming or renaming permitted under this section. The requirements of Section 32B shall not apply to the naming, renaming, or other designation authorized by this paragraph, Section 3.3, provided that the naming, renaming, or other designation is consistent with the following criteria. Such rooms, areas, or sub-areas constitute less than 25% of the public building, structure, or public lands, or on which the same may be located. No such room, area, or sub-area shall be named for any living person. No such room, area, or sub-area shall bear the name of a commercial enterprise, and a duly advertised public hearing is held at which such naming, renaming, or designation is considered and acted upon by said department or agency. Any person objecting to such naming, renaming, or designation by the department or agency may, within 10 days thereafter, appeal the action in writing to the Select Board, which shall, after a duly advertised public hearing, approve or reject the action. D, the installation and naming, renaming, or other designation of features shall be by the department or agency having jurisdiction over the same. The Select Board may, after a duly advertised public hearing, establish standards and specifications for signs, plaques, markers, or other features to be entered on public property within the town.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome, Robert.
Very much.
I'm coming up for air.
Wow. I appreciate it. That's real teamwork. Our next section is budget and financial items. Article 8, transfer from free cash to the Capital Stabilization Fund to see if the town will vote to transfer or appropriate $139,895.20 to the Capital Stabilization Fund, said sum to be taken from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Article 9, transfer from free cash to the Operating Stabilization Fund to see if the town will vote to transfer appropriate $101,412.60 to the Operating Stabilization Fund. Said sum to be taken from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Article 10, transfer from free cash to the OPEB Fund to see if the town will vote to transfer appropriate $33,804.20 to the other post-employment benefits OPEB account, said sum to be taken from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Article 11, unpaid bills previous fiscal year, to see if the town will vote to transfer for 12 previous fiscal year bills totaling $3,831.18 to the prior year expense account for unpaid bills received late. Amount, vendor, and account approved for payment, $8.05. McKesson ambulance/EMS expenses, $240.82. CBS highway building expenses, $8.05. McKesson ambulance EMS expenses, $12.40. LPVEC medical claims expenses, $104.56. LPVEC Medicaid, I said Medicare before maybe, but Medicaid claim expenses for both of these, $915.50. Daily Hampshire Gazette, Zoning Board of Appeals, $679.24. Daily Hampshire Gazette, Zoning Board of Appeals, $41.34. LPVEC Medicaid claim expenses, $56.66. LPVEC Medicaid claim expenses, $753.25. Hampshire Regional School District Student Op Act supplies, $11.24. Whitmer Public Safety Group, Inc., police expenses, and the last one, $1,000, All Traffic Solutions, support for electronic messaging boards. Said sum to be taken from fiscal 22 expense accounts listed above or take any other action relative thereto. Article 12, 5-year contract for leases for copier machines for police station and town hall, to see if the town will vote to allow the select board to enter into 5-year contract for copy machine leases at town hall for all town departments and for the police station for the police department, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 13, Annual Operating Budget for Fiscal 2023. To see if the town will vote to fix salaries of all elected officials for the fiscal year 2023 for the period for July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023, and further, to raise and appropriate $19,098,142.31 monies as identified in the town's annual operating budget from taxation, $17,500 from WPAT loan, and $100,000 from ambulance fees as attached for fiscal year 2023, or take any other action relative thereto. And what we've done historically, the moderator has the right and the responsibility and the privilege to divide the article, and this is what we do. So instead of voting on the entire budget, we discuss and vote on each section, and once we're done, we do not need to then vote on the entire budget. So I'll read the amounts. General government, $781,468.40. Public safety, $2,077,862.14. Education, $12,133,688. Public Works, $958,215.07. Health and Human Services, $151,345.11. Culture and Recreation, $184,929.05. Employee Benefits, $2,489,335.78. Debt Service Principal, $244,500. Debt Service Interest, $76,798.76. Again, for a total of $19,098,142.31. Article 14, Transfer Station Enterprise Fiscal 2023 Budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $235,305 to operate the transfer station enterprise according to the following budget. Wages, $45,081. Operating expenses, $157,200. Environmental compliance, $4,000. Indirect costs, $19,024. Total, $235,305. And that $198,250 to be raised from transfer station enterprise revenues, $37,055 to be taken from retained earnings, and $19,024 to be appropriated in general fund indirect costs, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 15, Water Enterprise Fiscal 2023 Budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $967,759.88 to operate the water enterprise according to the following budget. Salaries and wages, $305,364.88. Operating expenses, $169,526. Capital outlay, $100,000. Indirect costs, $98,869. Debt services, $294,000. Total, $967,759.88. And that $922,854.90 be raised from water enterprise revenues, $44,905 from retained earnings, and $98,869 appropriated in general fund indirect costs, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 16. Transfer from free cash for highway dump truck debt payment. To see if the town will vote to transfer appropriate a total of $47,930 from free cash to the debt highway account $47,000 in principal, $930 in interest for the fiscal 23 debt payment on the debt highway dump truck new, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 17, transfer from free cash to the Mass Trails Grant Match Greenway Project. To see if the town will vote to transfer appropriate a total of $15,000 from free cash to the account for Mass Trails Grant Match for design and engineering costs for the Greenway Bike and Pedestrian Trail if the town receives the grant, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 18, rescind previous town meeting vote for debt exclusion, acquisition, and design for Greenway project. Article 25, June 12, 2021. To see if the town will vote to rescind the vote on Article 25 from the June 12, 2021 annual town meeting warrant, which was to appropriate the sum of $270,000 as a debt exclusion to acquire the right-of-way for the Greenway Rail Trail, bike and pedestrian path, and/or to pay design costs related thereto, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any other action thereto. Article 19, funding for highway loader debt exclusion. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $231,000 or any other amount to purchase a new wheel loader for the use of the highway department, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any other action relative thereto. Article 20, transfer for Norris School masonry repairs. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $7,500 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Norris School Capital to fund masonry repairs at the elementary school, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 21, transfer for replacement heating system for the Highway Department, office, and garage. To see if the town to vote to transfer the sum of $56,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Highway Department capital budget to fund the replacement of the heating system for the town highway garage, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 22, transfer for Norris School roof repairs. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $7,400 from Capital Stabilization Fund to the Norris School Elementary capital budget to fund the repairs to the roof at the elementary school, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 23, transfer from Center Cemetery water line replacement. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $13,200 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the cemetery capital budget to fund the installation of new replacement water lines in the Center Cemetery, or take any other action relative thereto. Article 24, transfer for brush and fire rescue UTV and trailer. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $18,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Fire/EMS capital budget to fund the purchase of a new brush fire and rescue UTV and trailer to be used for brush fires and rescue of individuals by the Fire/EMS and police departments, or take any action relative thereto. Article 25, transfer for PEG capital funds for East Hampton Media. To see if the town will vote to transfer/appropriate $50,000 from Public, Educational, and Government, PEG, Access Capital Fund to the town's PEG Access designee, East Hampton Media, to fund the replacement, upgrade, and installation of the PEG TV broadcasting, streaming, and recording equipment at their facility for the purpose of broadcasting on the local cable channels. Additionally, funds will be used to update and upgrade studio and field production equipment used by members and staff, or take any action relative thereto. Article 26, home rule legislation for additional package store license. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to petition the General Court for special legislation to authorize the grant of an additional package store liquor license as set forth below, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to said bill, unless the Select Board approves amendments thereto prior to enactment by the General Court. and provided further that the Select Board is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition or take any other action relative thereto. Section 1, notwithstanding Section 17 of Chapter 138 of the general laws or any other general or special law to the contrary, the licensing authority of the town of Southampton may grant one additional license for the sale of alcoholic beverage to be drunk off the premise under Section 12 of such Chapter 138. The license shall comply with such requirements and conditions as the licensing authority shall deem appropriate. The license shall be subject to all requirements of said Chapter 138, except said Section 17 relative to the number of licenses that may be granted. Section 2, if a license granted pursuant to this act is canceled, revoked, or no longer in use at the location of original issuance, it shall be returned physically with all of the legal rights, privileges, and restrictions pertaining thereto to the licensing authority, which may then grant the license to a new applicant at the same location under the same conditions as specified in this act. Section 3, this act shall take effect upon its passage or take any other action relative thereto. Article 27, Treasurer-Collector Demand Fee of $25. To see if the town will vote to authorize each written demand issued by the collector a fee of $25 to be added and collected as part of the tax, as authorized by Mass General Law, Sections 50, subsection 15, effective as of July 1, 2022. Article 28, vote to establish a municipal light plant, MLP. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to take all necessary and appropriate action to establish and to maintain, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 164, Sections 34 and 47C of the general laws, and in accordance with the rules, regulation, and orders of the Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Telecommunications and Cable, a municipal lighting plant for all purposes allowable under the law of the Commonwealth, laws of the Commonwealth, including, without limitation, the operation of a telecommunication system and any related services, or to take any other action relative thereto. Stick around, we have more. Article 29, reauthorization of the Board of Health Septic Betterment Program. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $200,000 for the purpose of financing the following water pollution facility projects: repair, replacement, and/or upgrade of septic systems pursuant to agreements with Board of Health and residential property owners, including all costs thereof as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 29C of the general laws, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust or otherwise, or to take any other action relative thereto. Revolving funds. Article 30, revolving fund spending limits. To see if the town will vote to set the revolving fund fiscal 2023 spending limits for such revolving funds as follows, or take any other action relative thereto. I'll give three under the heading Program or Purpose, Use of Fund, Fiscal 22 Spending Limit. Conservation, Operating Expenses, Administrative Expenses, $10,000. Conservation Forestry, Oversight and Management of the Conservation Areas, including forestry land, $20,000. Council on Aging Van, Payment for Operation of the COA Van, $31,000. Dog Licensing and Control, Expenses related to administration of licenses and dog control, $8,000. Electrical Inspections, Payment for Electrical Inspection Services, $20,000. Fire Department, Brush Services, Fire Chief to purchase brush firefighting equipment, $20,000. Park Commission, Operating Expenses, Administrative Expenses, $10,000. Planning Board, Administrative Expenses, $10,000. Planning Board, Consulting Costs, $15,000. Plumbing Inspections, Payment for Plumbing Inspection Services, $20,000. Tax Title related costs, $10,000. Weights and Measures Fees, $3,000. Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBA expenditures, $5,000. The next section of articles is under the general heading of Community Preservation Projects. Article 31, Report of the Community Preservation Committee, to see if the town will vote to hear and act pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, on the report of the Community Preservation Committee for the fiscal year 2023 Community Preservation budget, and to appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation Fund the following sums of money as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administration expenses, community preservation projects, and other necessary and proper expenses in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022, with each item to be considered as a separate appropriation. Administrative expenses, $7,500. Reserve from fiscal 22, estimated revenues for historic resources reserve, $42,250. From fiscal 22, estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $42,250. And from fiscal 22, estimated revenues for Pomeroy Meadow Road land, $53,800. Pomeroy Meadow land purchase is only a memo item and will fulfill the 10% requirement for open space reserve or take any other action relative thereto. Article 32, CPC funding for land purchase for Housing Authority, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $125,000 from the Community Preservation account to the Housing Authority. Said funds to be transferred from Community Preservation Surcharge Community Housing account for the purpose of acquiring 1.32 acres of property and for associated costs of the acquisition to be used for affordable housing or take any act relative thereto. We have our last article. Article 33, CPC funding for land purchase for aquifer protection. To see if the town will vote, A, to appropriate the sum of $443,700 from the CPA undesignated account for the purpose of acquiring approximately 76 acres of land on Pomeroy Meadow Road, being Assessors Map 8, Parcel 1, and described in a deed recorded with the Hampshire Registry of Deeds in Book 14282, page 287, and B, to acquire said property by gift, purchase, eminent domain, or otherwise for conservation, passive recreation, and or water supply for drinking water protection purposes, said property being in the immediate recharge area for the Barnes Aquifer, said acquisition being subject to the protections of Article 97 of the amendments of the Massachusetts Constitution, and C, to authorize the Water Commissioners to apply for a DWSP grant upon such terms and conditions as the Water Commissioners, with the approval of the Select Board, shall determine to be appropriate, and that the interest in said property shall be conveyed to the town under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 39B and 41, as they may hereafter be amended, and other Massachusetts statutes related to water supply and conservation purposes, said property to be managed and controlled by the Water Commissioners, and further, that the Select Board and the Water Commissioners authorized to submit on behalf of the town any and all applications deemed necessary for grants and or reimbursements from any state or federal programs in aid of water supply and conservation land acquisition, including but not limited to all applications deemed necessary for grants and or reimbursements from the DWSP grant program, and to receive and accept such grants and or reimbursements for this purposes, and or any grants or reimbursement programs in any way connected with the scope of this article, and that the Select Board and or the Water Commissioners be authorized to enter into all agreements and execute any instruments, including a grant of perpetual water supply and conservation restriction to the Commonwealth or a nonprofit corporation or trust that meets the requirements of Mass General Laws, Chapter 184, Sections 31 to 33, as may be necessary to effect such acquisition or attain such grant. And in the event any such grant is awarded, said awarded funds shall be used to reimburse the CPA undesignated account. And D, to authorize the Conservation Commission, the Water Commission, and/or the Select Board and any other appropriate town officers to take all related actions necessary appropriate to carry out this acquisition and to grant a perpetual conservation restriction, the intent of this article, or take any other action thereto. That's it. Warrant is signed. There's 33 articles. It's going to be an interesting evening. We want you there. Town meeting, June 7, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. William E. Norris School. Masks aren't required, but they're highly recommended. And we'll have hand sanitizers and the like there. So see you then. Good night.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.